It's been 1 year since former Chief Justice of India Ranjan Gogoi became a member of the Rajya Sabha. His nomination to Parliament made by the President, or in other words, the government, drew widespread criticism. While some claimed that Gogoi's nomination infringed upon the separation of powers between the executive and the judiciary, others saw his nomination as some sort of a post-retirement reward from the ruling establishment. But in the midst of all the criticism, Ranjan Gogoi remained unfazed, justifying his nomination. I have accepted it since I have a strong conviction that the legislative and the judiciary must at some point of time work together for nation building. My presence in Parliament will be an opportunity to project the views of the judiciary before the legislature and vice versa, he said. But what exactly has been the result of his presence in Parliament? And what has been his contribution to nation building while projecting the views of the judiciary in the legislature? There is no denying that a former Chief Justice occupying a seat in the upper house of the Parliament is uniquely placed to contribute to debates on bills and the legalities that surround them. But Ranjan Gogoi has not participated in even a single debate. None. In the time that the former CJI has been a member of the Rajya Sabha, several contentious bills have been discussed in the Parliament, including the 3 farm laws, which have triggered protests by India's farmers. In the debate over the bills, an important question was raised regarding whether the legislation was outside the constitutional purview of the centre, since agriculture is a state subject. If there was one place and time where the CJI's statement on his strong conviction that legislative and the judiciary must work together for nation building would make any sense, it was this. But former CJI Ranjan Gogoi preferred not to participate in the proceedings and offered no analysis on the question. Members of Parliament are also expected to hold the government accountable by asking questions on matters concerning policy and administration. These questions are formulated by the MPs after closely scrutinizing government policy and performance. To be able to do this, they require extensive knowledge of various fields of law, economics, foreign policy, and so on. One would imagine that a former Chief Justice who has braved fierce criticism by justifying his nomination repeatedly would have been able to pose at least one question to the government. However, former CJI Ranjan Gogoi has asked none. MPs can also raise interventions in Parliament, drawing the attention of the government to issues with policy implementation or gaps in administration. These are listed as special mentions in the Rajya Sabha. Once again, the CJI has made no special mentions. What about attendance? The record shows that Ranjan Gogoi was present for just 3 sessions of Parliament over the entire of last year. That said, there seems to be only 2 instances of note in the career of Ranjan Gogoi, the Parliamentarian. The first, on the day of his oath-taking ceremony, when opposition MPs chanted "Shame on you" from the stands.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India as by law established, that I will uphold.
And the second time, when Lok Sabha MP Maua Moitra criticized Ranjan Gogoi's actions of presiding over his own sexual harassment case, clearing himself of the charges, and then taking up the offer to become MP in the Rajya Sabha, making the case that nothing was sacred to the government, not even the independence of the judiciary.
Sacred cow that was the judiciary is no longer sacred. It stopped being sacred the day a sitting Chief Justice of this country was accused of sexual harassment, presided over his own trial, cleared himself, and then proceeded to accept a nomination to the upper house within 3 months of retirement, replete with Z+ security cover. The judiciary stopped being sacred when it chose to squander the greatest opportunity that any bench of the highest court of this land has ever seen, to reinforce the founding principles of our democratic republic and to uphold the rights enshrined in Part 3 of our Constitution.
This episode of The Wire Explains is based on an article by the lawyer and researcher Arvind Kurian Abraham. He mentions Justice Gogoi as CJI often resorted to sealed cover jurisprudence, allowing the government to submit information in sealed covers to the court without copies being provided to the corresponding party, thereby going against the principle of transparency associated with a public court proceeding. By not participating in any parliamentary debate, asking no questions and raising no interventions in the House, one has to wonder, What were the services that Ranjan Gogoi rendered in Parliament? Perhaps the answer lies in a sealed cover.
To receive instant updates on all videos from The Wire, click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon. Pay to support independent journalism. Click the link in the description and choose the amount you want to pay.